Hey, I'm Neil Patrick Harris, and we are at the opening night of Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
This is such a historic evening that this kind of character is going to be playing to mainstream audiences on Broadway. It's a pivotal moment in theater history.
There's so many levels to it, and it's so unique and subversive and interesting. And I wish there were, frankly, more things out there like it, and people taking risks like that. It feels one of a kind in that way.
His interpretation of the character is what I'm excited about. I saw it originated by its writer-director John Cameron Mitchell almost 20 years ago. So I'm excited to see what Neil does with it on Broadway.
I think the best part about seeing it on a Broadway stage is that the same show that worked in the theater that we built in an empty ballroom at a flop house downtown still works in this sort of like glamorous Broadway theater.
Hedwig is a musical about an East German transplant to the States who went through a botched sex change operation, and she is putting on a show next door to her former lover's big Times Square concert, and she really wants to set the record straight that she wrote the songs that made him famous, and she wants her chance to stand in the spotlight. And in so doing, she learns an enormous amount about her own self and goes through a giant personal transformation.
Well, I think it's interesting to play someone that starts off with so much armor and ends up with so much vulnerability. I literally start with 3 wigs on my head and like quadruple underdressed. And as the show goes on, I'm taking things off, not only physically, but kind of emotionally. She starts as a real tough bitch, and then she ends up as a really kind of fragile person. And so that's a really fun thing to just get to explore every night, because every night it's kind of different.
It's the hardest role I'll ever do, or pretty much anyone will ever do, because of the singing, the drag, the dancing, and the nonstop show. It's harder, Hamlet doesn't have to sing and dance. And it made me quit acting because it was so hard. I was also spoiled and I didn't want to do anything else.
I think it's an interesting show right now, because I feel like before, the idea that a guy was playing a transgendered woman and it was so hardcore was almost freak show in its newness. And now, so many years later, there's a lot of representation of transgender in a way that people have already had to think about that as an idea and get beyond the deer in headlights element of that and really listen to the person. So now I get to play the part and tell the story without having to ingratiate myself so much with an audience, and that makes me happy that people have advanced themselves a little bit.